Totally Football Show. Today, Father Carabao has been, and he's left a fresh blanket of League Cup quarter-finals, with seasonally enough, our annual mentions of Jesus and quater. We round up all the midweek fun and the Premier League weekend to come. Why are Everton poised to end Chelsea's run? What will Bournemouth do at Old Trafford? And after Saints and Wolves told their bosses to bounce, will they get one from the new fellas? We'll be discussing all that and more in this Totally Football Show. Thursday the 19th of December. And me, yes, it is. Less than a week now until Christmas Day. Wasting valuable time sitting here in the studio, we have Charlie Eccleshare.
Hello.
Adrian Clarke.
Hello.
And Benji Lanyado.
Hey, Jimbo.
Lovely to see the Christmas jumpers out.
Yeah.
Listener, Adrian's wearing a... Well, describe it, Adrian.
Well, it's a take on the 95-96 Arsenal shirt that I was lucky enough to wear back in the day.
Yeah.
And it's a new release from the Arsenal Club shop. I think it's sold out. But they gave one to me, so I feel duty bound to wear.
No, it's
wear it. I love it. I absolutely love it. Can I just say, had a little faith restored in humanity moment on the way in today.
Oh.
Right. On the packed tube.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm walking down the platform with my rucksack on my back.
Oh, yeah.
And it's come undone.
No.
I've heard a bang. It's my glasses case.
No.
And then I hear a second drop.
Yes.
And it's my laptop.
Oh, my God.
Right?
Yeah.
This stranger
Yes.
dives full length.
You're kidding.
Full length. I'm not lying. He
catches
dives like
it.
full length to stop it.
No.
And he's caught it just as it hit the ground. There was a little bit of a crack, but he got there, and I was very grateful. And he was like, "Yeah, I think the fourth umpire, that might have said that it was grounded, but I did my best
Right.
for you." I just thought, what a legend! I literally had to pick him up off the floor.
Wow. Was that you, listener? Was it?
Yeah, thank you.
You'd have done it if it wasn't. Yeah.
I don't think I would have.
I mean, no, thanks for bringing that.
That's fabulous, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a nice moment.
A Christmas miracle.
You're also wearing a seasonal jumper, aren't you?
Absolutely.
What's your message
Mine
to the
says
world?
pick fair. But a lot of people say that pick fair is only for Christmas, but I've always said it's an all year round solution to hosting and selling your photography.
You would say that because you're the CEO.
That's right, Jimbo. Thank you, yeah. And many amateur photographers out there. Hit it up.
Yeah. Boom. Tick.
Thanks.
We've got lots of questions in from listeners today. Some lovely ones. Also got those Carabao Cup quarter-finals, of course. You'll have noticed that Arsenal beat Crystal Palace 3-2 with a hat-trick from Gabriel Jesus. Woo. Newcastle beat Brentford 3-1. Southampton lost 2-1 to the holders and league leaders Liverpool. And one more game is still to come on Thursday. That's Spurs, Man United. What did you love about those Wednesday night games? Was it seeing Chiesa and Jesus and Sterling, rare outings for them? Was it Palace's tactics on Arsenal corners, which were interesting?
Started them, to be fair, to give Monaco their due.
What are those tactics?
Basically, leave a load of players up around the halfway line.
So you have fewer people to defend the corner.
You've got fewer people to defend in the knowledge that that's going to force the attacking team to leave men back. Ooh. So you've got fewer attacking players as well as fewer defenders in there.
Spooking them, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's Mourinho did it. I remember when he was at Chelsea a couple of times as a sort of experiment. But yeah, Monaco did it to counter Arsenal's prowess at corners reasonably successfully. And then Palace copied it last night. Yeah.
No, I've always thought it's a ploy worth making because coaches these days, you'll notice they don't leave anyone up normally. Everybody comes back. But there's no outlet, so if you clear the ball, it's coming straight back. So, no, I get the logic of it.
Basically, the rule is you leave as the attacking team one more player to defend than the opposition have left. So obviously, if they take out 3, you've got to take out 4, or you feel duty bound to leave 4. So there is some sense to it.
Yeah, but yeah, when you got Gabriel, I think they probably want more defenders back. It's the answer really, but he didn't.
Yeah,
he didn't start last night.
Game,
yeah, exactly. So no, I enjoyed the Arsenal game. And that's where I was. Yeah, so it was good. The second half was fantastic, and Arsenal really needed it after sort of flat draws.
Behind at half time, no, to Palace.
Behind, yeah. It wasn't going well at all. It was a repeat, really, of Everton, where loads of the ball, not any chances created. I think Arsenal had 3 shots, the best of which was a free kick from Sterling that was well saved. Second half was more like the Arsenal we've grown to sort of expect over the last couple of years, it was brilliant.
All right,
I'm
but
not sure. I mean, you say Arsenal needed the result. I'm not sure a player has ever needed a goal quite as much as Jesus needed. I mean, he was the archetypal, just couldn't buy a goal. And then I guess also the archetypal just needed one to go in off his bum, or in this case, his foot. And the others will come along quickly, and indeed they did.
A terrific game then. The good news is we've got another meeting of these two sides this weekend, only this time it's at Palace's. The other midweek games, we saw Simon Rusk debuting in interim charge of the Saints. They gave a kind of Liverpool B team bit of a go at it, with a lovely goal from Cameron Archer. I'm just saying. With a lovely goal from Cameron Archer.
He scores nice goals, Cameron Archer.
That is his sort of stock and trade.
Nice goals.
Cutting in to his right foot and scoring in style. It was a very nice finish.
As were both Tonali's goals. His first goals for Newcastle since his debut game for them all that time ago.
Although, Jimbo, you asked what we liked about last night. Do you know what I didn't like about last night?
Okay.
Thomas Frank dropping their three best players in a cup quarter-final, or initially dropping their three best players because Collins, Damsgaard and Bumo. Collins came in because Vandenberg, his name, got injured in the warm-up. I just found that so frustrating. Like, as an aspiring member of the kind of upper middle class of the Premier League, I look at teams like Brentford and Brighton and obviously Forest this year, and think, well, if you get all the way to a cup quarter final, why on earth don't you just go for it?
Well, especially if you're Brentford and you're ensconced in mid-table. Really, I mean, I guess they think they could go for Europe. They're certainly not going to be in any relegation danger. Yeah. I get it if you're a team that's battling relegation or maybe you're prioritising Europe, as annoying as it is when teams do it. But it is hard to understand, though there are probably fitness concerns around various players.
They played that 7 p.m. game on Sunday, and I think they got a 3 p.m. on Saturday. But still, I just think
got what they deserved.
Yeah, they did get what they deserved. As soon as I saw that lineup, I was like, I hope Newcastle smash it, because now Newcastle are all we've got left really in the semi-final draw. That's like fun. It's going to be just
Spurs haven't won a trophy in
I
a
think
long
slightly
while.
less emotional pull from my end.
Right. Spurs taking on Man United this evening as we record Thursday. Eddie Howe very much going with a full strength.
All the way through.
Side.
And so did Palace. That's why it's quite sad to see them go out. It was interesting in the early rounds, like I think it was only Newcastle and Palace that were absolutely playing their first choice teams in the Carabao Cup. Absolute vindication for Eddie Howe now getting them to another semi. Shame Palace couldn't do it, but Brentford, don't deserve to.
I do think in general the Carabao Cup, I mean, I think it occupies such a weird space. Like, I wrote a piece actually a few years ago saying it should be abolished because I don't really see the point of it anymore, which led to an angry...
Yet it remains.
And in spite of that, would you believe? But an angry message from the Accrington Stanley chairman.
Oh, yeah.
Who I then ghosted a kind of a rebuttal piece.
Okay.
That it's great for the smaller clubs because they can have a payday, whatever. I just think when a competition becomes basically an exercise in who has the best B team, which is what it is, which is why Man City have completely dominated it. Man City have dominated the Carabao Cup not because they love the Carabao Cup or care about the Carabao Cup. It's because they've got an incredible second string. And I just kind of mean like, how worthwhile a competition is that? But that said, I've actually really enjoyed it this year. It just feels like there's such a sort of suffocating pressure and intensity to the Premier League, and obviously the Champions League's got this weird format that no one really knows what to make of. It's just quite nice having it's a straight knockout. There's no VAR. It feels a bit more fun and less sort of like angsty.
Right. No extra time.
No extra time. Yeah. I mean, they should 100% get rid of the 2-leg semi-final. I think that is utter madness.
Right.
And I actually think it would give the competition more value because I do think there are teams who are a bit wary of those semi-finals coming when they do. When everyone's knackered, do we really want 2 more midweek games? Where if it's just 1 leg, I think teams would be more like, yeah, great, a semi-final.
You've had a Damascene conversion.
I really have, yeah.
Is the Carabao Cup not the competition that every year we discover that, actually, we really like this? And next year we'll have this conversation again, I think.
Sipping the Carabao.
Maybe so. Maybe so. There you go. Newcastle through, as you say, to their second semi-final in 3 seasons now. Yeah. Very nice. Arsenal also through, and Liverpool, the holders. We'll find out who they'll be facing once Spurs Man United gets done Thursday evening. And then after that, Premier League. What's in store there? Let's have a look. Matchday 17. It was the round before Christmas. And there were 5 games on Saturday. At lunchtime, Aston Villa Man City. Then at 3 o'clock, West Ham, fresh from a point, Benji, Monday at Bournemouth, face the Like a Box of Chocolates Brighton. Ipswich will be hosting Newcastle. Ipswich still looking for their first home win of the season. And goals in store again at the G-Tech, you'd say, as Forest take their fine away record to the Premier League's best home side, Brentford. 5:30 with your crumpets, there's Palace Arsenal, handy when the peasants are revolting. And Sunday, 4 games at 2 o'clock. One of them's on TV. Fulham Saints is the one they've gone with. I mean, as you would, wouldn't you? Fulham Saints. The other ones are Man United, Bournemouth, Leicester Wolves, and Everton Chelsea. Everton, by the way, have a crazily good record against the other Blues. We'll get into that a bit later on. But Chelsea, if they win, will go top of the league at least for a few hours until 4:30 when Spurs host Liverpool. Spurs-Liverpool, everybody. That's where we begin. Spurs coming off a really disastrous set of results. But we were mentioning... No?
Well, yes. I mean, they sort of got back to winning ways on Sunday. And
they did.
And I guess the thing with them is they're such an up and down team. It's so hard to sort of foresee how they will do. I mean, you know, their one win in whatever it was, 7 or something, was a 4-0 away win at City, which, yes, now it's like, oh, you've only beaten City. But at the time, that was quite a big deal, actually, beating the champions. They went from losing at home to Ipswich, who hadn't won a game all season, to beating the champions away, and that kind of sums up a bit where they've been. So,
indeed.
Yeah.
Remarkable stat we mentioned in our last show, that they have actually conceded the same number of goals as Chelsea and only scored 1 fewer goal than Chelsea, and yet Chelsea is second and Spurs are 10th. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, and that speaks to the fact all their games that they've lost have been by a single goal, and all their wins have been by 3 or more. I mean, it is extraordinary.
So if they lose against Ipswich and they beat Man City, which kind of game, which category of fixture does a clash with Liverpool fall into?
Well, they've got a chance, haven't they? I think they can. I think it'll be an open game, definitely. And Spurs have got forwards that can hurt any team in the division. And Liverpool, let's face it, haven't been anywhere near as solid lately, have they? Was it? They conceded 3 goals in their first 8 games, and they've conceded 10 in their last 7, Liverpool.
They've had back-to-back draws in the Premier League, 2-2 with Fulham and then the 3-3 with Newcastle.
Yeah, scoring goals, conceding goals. It feels like it's a game you want to watch, doesn't it? Tottenham against Liverpool. No idea what's going to happen. Absolutely no idea. But Tottenham are certainly capable of causing an upset here. But this Liverpool sort of march goes on, doesn't it? It's good, and the record that Liverpool have against Spurs, I think, counts for something.
They've had some spicy games. I mean, this fixture they played at almost exactly the same time. It would have been 3 years ago, just before Christmas. It was Liverpool, very COVID hit, but it was 2-2. I think Robertson got sent off. Kane should have been sent off, and not only the game, the good process game, but Liverpool came out with a sort of simmering sense of injustice from that one as well. So they've been I think they will feel that they kind of owe Spurs one, certainly at Spurs. Yeah. Spurs still without Bentancur, and they've got some injuries. I mean, they'll be without both their centre-backs again.
Well, that's the issue here.
Right.
I mean, the defence... When I saw the defence...
And Ben Davies, who would be the next man in.
When I saw the defence against Southampton, I thought, Southampton got a chance of winning this. I think we probably all did, a little bit. And then, of course, they're 5-0 up at half-time, Tottenham. So, but it's different, isn't it, playing against the league leaders. And Jed Spence, although that worked, bringing him in... And then you've got, Archie Gray and Dragosin. I mean, you do think that Liverpool should really be rubbing their hands together and thinking, all right, we can cut loose here. So,
especially now Jota back and Chiesa back. And I think Jota is really, really big for them to have back. I think he's just such a good player.
Okay, so not too many prospects of the leaders dropping points and allowing Chelsea and maybe even the teams a little bit further back to get back into the title picture?
Well, I would say rationally no, but Spurs have sort of defied what seems sensible and logical so often that I wouldn't rule out another such case, if that makes sense.
But what I think is that they won't keep a clean sheet. So to win this game, Spurs will need to score 2. Have you seen the stat? 1 clean sheet in the last 23 home games, which is just...
Home games, wow.
Yeah, at home.
They basically go behind in every single home game. I mean, it is extraordinary how rarely they score the first goal at home. And obviously, it's one thing coming back like they did against, no disrespect, West Ham. But I mean, in fairness, they've done it to Villa as well, and many other teams. But if you go behind, if you give Liverpool a goal head start, that's a lot tougher.
There is another world in which Arne Slot is on the other bench in this game.
And the 5,000-word piece I wrote on why Spurs were appointed Arne Slot got published, rather than sitting on a Google Doc.
No, 5,000 words.
That's how close it got. Because it's always a fine line at what point you sort of pull the trigger, because you don't want to get burned. But we were so confident it was going to happen. And I remember it well.
And you haven't found a way to recycle that yet?
Well, I have, cleverly. Yeah, exactly. When Liverpool appointed him, I said, if you want any sort of background on Arne Slot, I've got plenty. And take out a few, this is what he'll bring to Spurs, and the piece is pretty much good to
Would
go.
he have worked as well at Spurs?
I mean, I don't see any reason why not. I mean, he wouldn't have had as good a squad.
It would have been stabler. I think that the thing I found it quite interesting last weekend that before the Southampton Spurs game, Russell Martin really very eloquently came out to bat for Ange Postecoglou, and they because he's sort of the Diet Coke version of Ange, and he's like it is pure philosophy and dogma.
Yeah, it was,
and poor old Russell Martin, demonstrated that you can't philosophize at the Premier League. The Premier League going to get you eventually, and I think it will get Ange too. Whereas the thing about Slot that I think is more compatible to succeeding in the Premier League is that he seems pragmatic.
Right.
It's not pure ideas and damn it all, we're going with Plan A and there's no Plan B.
Yeah,
Mate.
Yeah, completely agree.
Mate.
When you thought they were appointing Slot and when they appointed Postecoglou, who did you think, when you were covering Spurs, who did you think would do the best or was the most suited?
It is hard to say. I mean, because Slot was higher up in their list of targets. If you remember, it was another one of those, like the one 2 years ago, where there were a lot of names linked. And I felt Slot felt like less of a gamble, I guess. And I think I'm sure he would have done a good job. But it should be, in Ange's favour. The squad he inherited and Kane left that summer, they were in a bit of a mess in a way that Liverpool absolutely weren't. It needed just someone to come, not just, but there was more of it lent itself to somebody who could come in and stabilise things. Whereas Spurs
not so much.
There were bigger issues to sort out.
Spurs stable. Well, if they do one of their results against Liverpool, Chelsea could find themselves top of the league. They, though, while they chase a 6th straight win in the Premier League, are going to be away at Goodison Park, where they have an extraordinarily bad record. Benji, Toffees have won 5 of the last 6 meetings with Chelsea there.
Good as me.
It's incredible, isn't it? Chelsea, in the last 5 years, have only scored 1 goal at Goodison Park, and that was a penalty. Everton this season have kept 6 clean sheets, all of them coming, by the way, in the last 9 matches. Only leaders Liverpool have kept more. So why you think 5 wins in a row Chelsea are surely going to run riot at struggling Everton? Apparently not.
Yeah, I worked on the game against Brentford, and I was really impressed with Chelsea. I've got to say, I know it's one. I've watched a lot of their matches this season, but I just thought that was a game where Brentford might take it to Chelsea. They had a terrible record at home to Brentford, by the way. So
true.
They've gone and ended that little jinx. I was super impressed with them because they're just full of running, and like they want to hurt teams with their athleticism and their power and their fearlessness, and they just charge at you, Chelsea. But they've also obviously got real talent as well in forward areas. The energy of the team is a little bit special at the moment. I don't think they're as good as Liverpool. I don't think they're as good as Arsenal, but
Don't think they're as good as Arsenal.
I don't. But
what do you think Arsenal are better at than, apart from taking corners?
Arsenal.
No, seriously.
Well, Arsenal are significantly better without the ball. There's a better defensive side than Chelsea. That ultimately is why I think Arsenal will finish above Chelsea. But what Chelsea have that Arsenal don't have at the moment is energy. And maybe Arsenal showed a bit of that against Crystal Palace in midweek, actually. But the way that Chelsea running towards the opposition goal. It sounds very basic,
No, I know
but it's with real intent, and they get at you.
They can overwhelm
quickly.
you in a way that you didn't feel Arsenal were ever going to overwhelm Everton.
Exactly.
So, if Arsenal, a demonstrably better side than Chelsea, couldn't get past the Toffees last weekend, and that was at home, what about Everton?
It's a different style. That's what I'm saying. I think that Chelsea are set up to play to play in a way. But what Everton might do is obviously give them less space to run into and try to frustrate them. So it'll be a different kind of challenge for Everton, for Chelsea rather. But they are playing well. For me, Moises Caicedo is the best midfielder in the country. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he
should be.
He's everywhere.
He's not some bargain. Yeah, he came in. One of £200 million plus midfielders they've got. Yeah. No, and I think they have a lot of options. I mean, they've got one fewer option to bring on now in Mykhailo Mudryk, but they have a lot of attacking players. You think of guys like João Felix who can't get a game, and Kunku they can bring on.
But they are all getting games. This is the beauty of having the B team in a competitive European competition. I actually think Maresca's like living out probably a fantasy of many Premier League managers where you've got I mean, this is a real nerd deep cut. There were versions of Championship Manager back in the day where you could manage the B team as well. Do you ever do it? And you buy lots of interesting young players and put them into the B team and let them battle it out to see who's good enough to rise into the A team, and that's essentially what Maresca is able to do.
And it's a real fan. It is a real fan fancy because it is because as a fan you're like, I don't care about squad dynamics, whatever. I kind of want my A team, my B team. But you're like, that shouldn't work in real life. And Nuno Espirito Santo tried to do something at Spurs similar, where he basically took a B team to an away game, left all the big names at home, and everyone was like, this? So you can't do that. That's so disrespectful to us. That's creating a two-tier squad. And Maresca didn't register Palmer for the Conference League.
Yeah.
Talk about a flex.
For the group stages.
For the group stages, But even so, it's that is putting him on a huge pedestal, which can really backfire.
And I can't believe I'm saying this as a West Ham fan, but because they are Chelsea and probably rightfully see themselves as maybe a bit above the Conference League, they're not going to get fan uproar. They're not going to get fan uproar.
Outrage.
They're not going to get fan outrage at not playing Cole Palmer against, what is it? Is it Shamrock Rovers they've got tonight?
Yeah.
They're not, but there is another world in which Maresca's not doing so well, and he puts Palmer on this pedestal, and then there are moans from the squad of it's not a flat structure at all. He can do what he wants, and in the long read about his sacking, that's a kind of reason why it all went wrong, because he pandered too much to the star players.
But he was so bold and explicit about it from the start. This is my team for this, and this is my team for that, as you say. Even with the
which can
squad
motivate players. So it's impressive that it kind of doesn't seem to have done.
It's done the opposite. Yeah.
The freshness that they've got, the first team of Chelsea, is clear for all to see, and it's a decision that's paid off. It was an out there call, but it was genius.
Okay, 2 points behind Liverpool, could go top. We'll see what happens in those two games on Sunday. Anybody else in the title race, do you think? Is it just those two?
I think you can't rule out Arsenal, surely. I mean, they're 6 points off, and they've played 16 games. Liverpool have played 50. I mean, put it this way.
Yeah, Liverpool have that game in hand.
They do. I mean, Arsenal were 5 points behind Liverpool at the start of February last season. They finished 7 above them. So that was a 12-point swing in 3 months. So I think, if they were ever in it, I don't think you can say, with 6 points, 6 points to make up. There's nothing to say on current form that they will, but things can change very quickly, and maybe they get a few defenders back. Jesus suddenly becomes a factor again.
We'll get on to the Gunners then.
Yeah, okay.
Next. Chettle Diverseness, hello. Chettle says, I need Benji to give us an update on the Uncle Jeff coefficient for the league overall. Who's on track for the biggest overperformance, brackets, Chelsea and Nottingham Forest, ? And underperformers, brackets, can it be anyone other than Man City? Benji, do you have a Uncle Jeff?
No, I mean, I can't be responsible for everyone's Uncle Jeff coefficient.
What?
I think actually Nick Miller took it upon himself a few years back to try and maintain a rolling all league coefficient. I'm not. This is above my pay grade, Jimbo.
You've got West 6 pages of notes there. What have you got?
I haven't actually looked at any of them yet. But I do know that West Ham's is 0.
Oh, okay.
So we'd be right in the middle of the table. You've got to assume, though, it'll be maybe Villa and City at the bottom, Forest at the top.
Probably.
Sorry, Chettle.
Yeah. Where would Arsenal be?
Below where they
were last year, possibly.
Yeah.
So this weekend they're going to be at Selhurst Park, as we mentioned, for the rematch of Wednesday's exciting Carabao Cup quarter final, 3-2 on Wednesday. City, meanwhile, who are a couple of points back. How many points back is City? They are 3 points back in 5th place, just behind Forest. They're going to be at Villa. Who's got the tougher fixture, do you think? Arsenal at Palace or City at Villa?
City at Villa.
Do they?
I think so. Yeah. No?
Yeah, well, Villa. I thought you were going to say Villa against City. Who's got the harder one?
No, they lost the game 1-0 last year, didn't they? Manchester City.
They did indeed.
And it was about a year ago. It was
and they didn't lose again all season.
Early December. No, that's right. But Emery found a formula. It is his one and only victory against Pep Guardiola. He's had a lot of goes at it. Nailed it that particular night. Was it a night game?
It was a night
game.
game.
It was a night
midweek,
game.
yeah.
But they crowded the space. They crowded the whole middle of the pitch that night. And
City barely had a glove on them. Remember, they barely had a shot.
Didn't have a shot after the 11th minute.
Yeah.
So they've got a formula to hurt City. It's just whether they're good enough to replicate it. Really, Aston Villa obviously no Douglas Luiz now. But look,
are we saying City are out of the title race?
Well,
I mean,
those points again, they're on 27, which is 9 behind Liverpool, and Liverpool have that game in hand. If anybody's famous for doing late season runs, it is Man City. Here's Katrin J with a question. It says, will Man City spend a lot in January to that end, or right off this season?
If you're a player,
yeah,
why would you join City in January not knowing what's going to happen?
Well,
there's a lot of uncertainty at the club.
I've got a question about that.
Yeah.
Do you think so? The case has been concluded, and they just haven't made the announcement yet. And Man City have suddenly gone on an absolutely appalling run of results, where all of a sudden this team of champions, this team that looked unstoppable, cannot buy a win. And that's a turn of phrase. I don't mean anything by that.
Very good.
Is there any way that Man City know what the verdict is? That in these cases sometimes. They tell you, listen, this is what it's be. A bit like when you go to an award ceremony, they say you better turn up because there's going to be something for you. That equally, that they've let them know, listen, this is what it's going to be, and we're going to find the appropriate time to announce it.
Someone would have leaked it, wouldn't they?
Do you think?
I would have thought.
I don't know. It just crossed my mind watching them the other day. They look like a team that realised
that little conspiracy
that
theory.
there was nothing to play for, essentially.
Anyway,
anyway,
it could have gone the other way though. Even if that was the case, it might have galvanised them in a kind of us against the world.
Well, if you know that everything you do is now irrelevant because there's a verdict that's going to render it so, I don't know. That's pure conjecture. And let's get back to the proper stuff. So,
I wanted to ask Adrian something as a former pro, because I think that one of the things that isn't getting talked about enough with City is that a big part of this is Pep's fault. Like he's to blame. He's not getting enough blame.
Well, he said that himself.
I know, but I think by saying that he's kind of like drawing the sting, and actually the media aren't criticising him enough. Like, because he's basically, this is a test that he's never faced before, and he's failing it. Like us fans of like non-epoch defining football teams know what it's like to go on a kind of run of bad games, and usually managers, and this is why I wanted to ask Adrian. Usually the strategy is to stay calm and say trust in the quality of the players, trust in the process, or at least sort of pretend you've got a process, and things will correct themselves after a while. And instead, Pep's losing his mind. And if you're a footballer looking at the sidelines and you've already got the heebie-jeebies because you're on a weird losing run, like surely Pep's behaviour is going to exacerbate.
Isn't his behaviour more or less the same that it's always been?
But that's the point. Well, yes, but it's like almost like he only does intensity.
Yeah.
Whereas, I guess my question to Adrian is: during these periods, do you actually want your manager to be calm, collected? Don't worry, everybody, chill out. We're going to get through this.
Is this the one time you want Ian Duncan-Smith?
I want IDS in charge at the Etihad in January.
Maybe. I think you look to your manager for a bit of assurance that everything's going to be all right.
You're not getting that from Pep right now.
No, I get that. But you also look to your manager to change things. Because if things aren't working, what is he going to do to change it? And in a dressing room, you can't influence it. You could try and change the way you play, but ultimately you go out and do what the manager tells you in the positions that he puts you. I don't really see anything dramatic in the way that Pep Guardiola was
We
trying
had
to
Grealish
arrest
coming
the
more
slide.
centrally.
Yeah, but the issues are defensive,
right.
aren't they? I mean, look at the goals they're conceding. I did a bit of analysis this week for the Premier League in terms of the goals they're conceding, and how many times is that line going to other teams going to clip a ball over the back four and hurt them with a goal? They're not adjusting anything. So I think if I'm a player there, I'm probably looking to my manager and say, well, what else have you got in your locker?
Right. Equally, the manager might be looking at the players and going, would you like to score on one of the shots that you had?
This is true.
I mean, Phil Foden, who is now, the annual category, who has the most shots without scoring. Unbelievably, it's now Phil Foden.
You know how much? Because again, I featured him in the piece that I wrote.
Okay.
His shot map for the season so far. I think he's had 24 shots. 24 shots without scoring, which is the most. Savinho's had the second most, by the way, with 20. But the shot map features 3 light blue dots on it, and they represent shots on target. Wow. So 3 on 24, 21 off.
Right.
So his radar is well and truly off.
To be fair to Pep, I mean, obviously, he aside from the fact that he's Pep and he's the best manager ever, he does have a bit of form in deciding that it's time to kick the players up the arse. If you remember, and it working, 2 seasons ago, the year when Arsenal had a big lead over City, and around January, he was doing a similar routine of being, I mean, in that case, it was a bit more like, what are we doing? Like all of us, not doing the just it's me. And it did really work. It did seem to get a tune out of them. But he said something like, they don't want it. My players don't want it as much as Arsenal do. That's the problem. They clearly don't care, and Arsenal care. And it did, City then went on one of their mad runs and won the league pretty comfortably, and Stones went in midfield. So I guess, to your point, it's a combo of the mentality, but actually also changing something.
Can he put Stones in midfield this time, Adrian?
If he's fit.
That's the key.
He hasn't been fit very much, has he? So, yeah, in fairness to him, he's not got many defenders available, and those that are playing are in a rotten run of form. I mean, Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker wouldn't get in. If it was based solely on current form, he wouldn't be getting in the Ipswich's team at the minute. He wouldn't.
I mean, that Nunes one as well, I genuinely laughed out loud. It was so funny, the way he played, because it's so relatable. Like, you make a mistake and then completely compound it with an even worse one. Like
Palace one, he didn't jump. The Liverpool goal, Gakpo just runs right behind it. Like, there's a long list of misdemeanors now.
Well, just to swing it back around, it is taking attention away from Villa's similarly rubbish run
is it a similarly rubbish run of form? I did Spurs a disservice earlier by forgetting the fact that they actually tonked Southampton last weekend. But Villa, quietly, have actually not been doing too bad of late. 3 wins in the last 4.
But in the league, they lost to Forest last time round.
That's true, 2-1.
If you broaden it out, if you lengthen that period as well, it's not great.
Yeah, it's 3 wins in 12.
But I guess Villa comes off the back of a pretty big overachievement, and they're doing well in the Champions League.
But also, you mentioned Douglas Luiz earlier. I think, City, I don't know if you knew that Rodri's injured. Douglas Luiz was a critical player last year for them. And they sort of tried to replace him in composite with Onana and Tielemans, and it's not quite working. I do wonder if he'll come back in January, because he was like, Douglas Luiz was part of this really interesting double transfer where him and Alicia Lehmann, who the Swiss player who played for Villa's women's team, both transferred, boyfriend and girlfriend, to Juve, and they're both struggling.
Are they?
Yeah. And I wonder if they could both come back in January. Yeah.
Interesting.
Wouldn't be the biggest surprise. There you go. Jack Grealish returning to Villa. Similarly, this weekend, although still turning out for City.
Who would you pick?
So I've got something for you. I've been thinking about this, right? So for me, it's Duran.
Yeah.
That header he scored last weekend,
Proper goal.
It's a wicked goal. But he showed now he can score every type of goal, right? He's 21. Ollie Watkins is 27, 28. Yeah. Right. I think that it would be quite smart of Villa to sell Ollie Watkins now at the top of his market value. What team is looking for a centre forward? Adrian, don't you think he'd fit in really well at Arsenal?
He's an Arsenal fan, isn't he, as well?
Is he?
Yeah. So.
I like him. Yeah, he would absolutely improve the squad, wouldn't he?
Yeah, because everyone often people often talk about Isaac as being the player as the player that Arsenal need. But I mean, Newcastle aren't going to sell Isaac. Whereas you can see there is a rational case for Villa selling him and then putting all their chips on John Duran.
They'd get more money for John Duran, wouldn't they? Because of his age.
Oh, definitely. I mean, Watkins turns 29 this month.
Oh, right, there you go.
So I think he'd probably be outside of the...
You'd probably still get 50, 60 million or something like that for him.
But 50, 60 million on someone that you won't recoup any cash for. It's not a great business decision, even though you probably.
But I think it could be exactly what Arsenal need for the next 2 years. If City are going to be slightly on the wane, like now's your chance to strike.
Maybe I want Duran instead.
What do you think about Arsenal this weekend then, as they face Palace one more time? Are there any pointers from Wednesday, or the changes?
Do you know,
in the
the
team?
big thing is, would you play Gabriel Jesus again? Because Gabriel Jesus has been horribly out of form all season.
Is that an option?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got
I'm starting him as a striker.
You think? And what do you do with Havertz?
Give him an extended rest. Give him another game off, because Gabriel Jesus, he's just scored a hat-trick, and he has absolutely run the 3 centre-backs that he'll play again at the weekend. He's run them ragged. His movement's too sharp for them. His touch is brilliant. He's running behind. Those 3 Palace defenders would much rather see Havertz in the starting 11 than Jesus, in my opinion. And for that reason, I would, if I'm Mikel, I'm sticking with the guy who's buzzing off the hat-trick. It might not work, but I think...
You don't think you could do a job off the left and say to Martinelli and Trossard, neither of whom are in good form?
Yeah.
That we'll play him and Havertz.
Yeah, it's a possibility, but I just think those 3 defenders have just been destroyed by Jesus.
But it's amazing how visible confidence is. Like after Jesus scores that lovely chip for the first goal, his the finishes for a second and third were unnerving. Absolute bullets into the corner, and this was a guy that hasn't scored in yonks. It was amazing.
It's amazing as well how much at any level of football, once you've scored, you just want chances. You're desperate for them, because you're like, even if I miss them, I've scored already. Whereas when you're not scoring, you can get to a point, and credit to Jesus, he's kept showing up and at least missing chances. But you can get to a point where you're like, I almost don't even want a chance because I'm sort of scared.
Palace. I kind of controversially suggested that might be as tough, if not more, than the trip to Villa. They are in a great run of form. The match on Wednesday saw them take the lead. Glasner then took off a couple of their key players with, I think, an hour to go still.
Yeah, it was a bit Brentford-ish, wasn't it, in terms of Thomas Frank?
I missed this.
He took Eze off. He took Mateta off.
okay.
Obviously, Nketiah came on and scored a great header.
He's protecting Eze because he's
was a great
come back
header,
from
wasn't
an
it?
injury.
Brilliant header. The hang time was amazing from Eddie. But no, Palace are a really good team, and in the first half they did nullify Arsenal through pressure, and this metric called pressures, where you close people down.
Right.
They are way ahead of every other team in the division, Crystal Palace, for pressures. It's particularly in the middle third. It's a crazy difference between them and everybody else. So they are very capable of unsettling teams.
Tight ground as
Yeah,
well.
exactly.
It is exactly the sort of game where if Palace were to go ahead, and they did this to Spurs, they went ahead, and at that time they hadn't won a game all season, Palace, and then just absolutely squeezed them. And the way Arsenal were struggling to break down deep blocks, I think if Palace were to go ahead, I'd be surprised if Arsenal then won. Likewise, if Arsenal went ahead, I think they probably would win.
It was the first time all season. This is amazing. The first time all season Crystal Palace has conceded more than 2 goals.
Really?
Yeah, first time. So they've not let any match get away from them. They're always in a match, Crystal Palace. Even though they've had a pretty bad start to the season until recently, hadn't conceded 3 or more goals in a single game.
I do also think, and this is a very much an amateur football thing, when often they try not to have, when you get like fixture pile-ups, and for whatever reason, they still try and avoid having teams play each other in consecutive games, because it's often really needly. There's a lot of aggro, because when you've just played a team, all the little hangovers from a week before are fresh in your mind. And I am always curious to know if that exists, and Adrian, you can maybe answer. Does it? Okay, that's good to know. So I reckon there will be, there are those little battles that will just continue straight on.
I didn't care, because I was one of these that I didn't mind getting kicked. I always took it as a kind of a compliment.
Mark of respect.
But yeah, so I was quite happy. I almost took confidence from being kicked. But a lot of footballers aren't like that, and they will remember like a year later, and then they'll go and do.
Let alone 3 days.
Yeah, exactly. So it's always the case. It's normally low scoring, and it's normally a lot of bookings and fouls in games that go back to back from my memory.
Okay. Well, there you go. If you do get past Palace at theirs, with Chelsea losing, as we mentioned, at Everton and Liverpool coming undone at the hands of another extraordinary Spurs performance, you'll be only 1 point off second and only 1 win off the top of the table.
Let's see. Yeah.
And then you'll be wearing a jumper with pride. My word. Okay, what else is going to happen this weekend? We'll get on to some of the other fixtures next. Well, congratulations to Real Madrid, everybody. Plucky Real Madrid were 3-0 winners over Pachuca of Mexico in the Intercontinental Cup on Wednesday night. This took place in the Lusail Stadium of World Cup final fame.
Yes, one of the finest stadiums in the world, according to the impartial observer Richard Keys.
There you go.
And Andy Gray agreed with him.
Kylian Mbappe, who scored one of the finest hat-tricks in World Cup final history in that game, actually opened the scoring in this one against Pachuca. Before Rodrigo and Vinny Jr. added their names to the score sheet. By the way, yesterday, which is Wednesday as we record, was the 2-year anniversary of that World Cup final. Do you remember that?
What a day.
Oh,
What a day.
What a day. You had no voice.
I lost my voice,
Yeah.
but insisted on trying to record a
You
podcast.
were just heroic, weren't you?
No, I think I was very stupid.
It probably should have been
I should
subbed.
have just said, no, I can't do it. But luckily you could speak, which was good.
the hand of history was on your shoulders, Jimbo.
It was an extra. Let's talk about the game. I mean, the game was an amazing
Now
World
you
Cup
actually
final.
can do it.
Yeah, I've been waiting all this time. Yeah, dear. Actually, just yesterday, I was reading a piece that Nick Miller wrote about events surrounding the final, specifically what Salt Bay was doing, turning up there in the celebrations where you had Argentina, freshly crowned champions of the world, wandering around with the trophy, and this kind of curious figure wrestling the trophy off them to do selfies for the gram. Bizarre. I recommend that piece is on theathletic.com right now from Nick Miller. Anyway, let's get a couple of questions. Andy Lang says, what is your favourite type of goal that is going extinct with current trends? Andy, while you ponder this, offers a few of his favourites. The 12 to 18-yard header from a Diag, bracket C Dion Dublin. What's he mean by that, Adrian?
From a diag?
Yeah. So a diagonal ball
scored,
in.
Yeah.
He must have scored.
It means,
a few.
I guess, more across from a kind of from the byline. It's more from further out.
Oh,
I mean, a
okay.
bit like John Duran's was not
Was
that
that?
similar from that. Sort
Yeah,
of thing.
but it's probably coming from the right back from quite deep,
Pinging it.
just drilling it to the far post, and someone just bang,
All
big
right.
centre forward banging one in the top bins. You probably don't see that very often. That's a good shout.
Okay. Long range screamers in general, says Andy Lang. The City has your place for that. I mean, you get loads there, but that, I mean, in the Premier League, it is on the wane.
For
isn't
me,
it?
it's players going around keepers.
Well, this is I was going to mention
Yeah,
this.
interesting.
Gary Lineker, when we had him on cliches, he said that was
Did
a
he?
dying. Yeah, he said that's
okay.
a thing that's died out. Is
Yeah.
no one rounds keepers.
Everyone
anymore.
dinks them now. They do the dinky finish like Jesus did in the game last night. But yeah, I remember it being far more frequent back in the old days. I don't know why. Maybe keepers were more rash then in terms of like
less
flying
mobile.
out.
Don't know.
Yeah, a little bit fatter. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
But the show would take them longer to go round. Big man knocking it down for a small man. Brackets. Andy offers Toshak Keegan, Haley McCoy's.
Quinn
I mean, you don't play
Quinn and
two up
Phillips.
front, do you?
That's fine, yeah.
Nice.
Marco Boogers, Tony Cottee.
Boogers and Cotty.
Actually, I meant
combo that comes to
Giro and
mind.
Bora. I got my Central European bad West Ham strikers mixed up.
Here's one more for you. Chips, brackets, not lobs. Explain for me the difference.
A chip is where the ball is on the ground already,
Okay.
and you sort of get your foot under it. And
Whereas a
chip it.
lob,
A lob is probably a bouncing ball where you just lift the ball over a goalkeeper.
perfect. El Panda. Has anybody else got any dying, endangered breed?
Well, actually, Jerome Bora, he's dead. Turns out.
Oh,
Um,
on that note, we'll move on.
sorry, yeah.
Yeah, no. Thoughts and prayers. El Panda Rojo says, is this the best season we've ever had for hard-working teams that play enjoyable football? Feels like we've always had one team threaten to challenge the establishment, like Villa or Brighton, but with Forest, Fulham, Brentford and Bournemouth added to that list, it finally seems like good football is winning. Is good football winning?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
think
is,
so.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm loving
Who
it.
plays bad football this season in the league?
Plays bad football.
I mean, normally there's a couple of
West
teams
Ham
that
have
play
been-
really
been
bad.
pretty
You'd
bad.
say
We're
Everton
pretty
normally.
Yeah.
West Ham, yeah?
Yeah, we're pretty bad.
Everton?
Well, wouldn't some make the case that Southampton play bad football because they're just trying to? The argument goes they're just trying to do like how everyone plays, but they don't have
Good
the players. To
football.
do
They're
it.
bad at the football that they're playing, but it's not bad
I
football they're
don't-
trying to
No,
play.
but some would say it. Some would make the argument that is because it's not. It's almost a failure of imagination because you're playing in the way that everyone does. They would advocate Everton and Sean Dyche as a more interesting.
I'm
way
gonna
of playing.
I'm gonna guess that El Panda Rojo means, or I take El Panda Rojo to mean bad football as negative
Sure.
as
Yeah, that's
yeah.
it. Because
Yeah.
I think
So who's playing negative football?
long ball football isn't bad.
Yeah.
There's other ways to play football other than playing pretty passing. So
Right.
I really agree with that sentiment. Bad football is negative, nasty. We're not really interested in winning, but we want to stop you football.
Okay. Who
And
have you got?
I would say no one. I would say
No
no
one.
one.
I mean, Everton, it's effective, but it would sort of fit that description, wouldn't it? It's kind of, it's based on being very well organised and dogged.
But they're not nasty, are they? There's not,
No,
Some people would say Arsenal.
but you can't get away with being nasty now.
I mean, it's true. Like some people, like, I mean, it's one of the reasons you're a better side than you were 5 years ago. But you're a kind of horrible team. Like,
That's one of the reasons I love Arteta's work.
yeah, exactly. You're more cynical. Your players will go down easier.
great.
You're great from set piece goals. So yeah,
All right, so Everton and Arsenal apart. Is this the most positive Premier League season you can remember?
it's really enjoyable. I mean, that kind of upper middle class, I think, is making this season.
Boom.
Fulham are great. Fulham are
Forest,
Vibes FC. Love them.
Yeah.
Lovely.
No
Okay.
chances of upsets these days.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of
absolutely,
which, this Sunday, one of the 2:00 games that are not televised is Bournemouth's trip to Old Trafford to take on Man United.
Yeah, Bournemouth, brilliant as well.
The Cherries actually won this fixture 3-0 a year ago, back in Ten Hag's tenure. If they do something similar, United could be in the bottom half at Christmas. They're currently 13th. For the first time since 1989. And that would be really upsetting, I'm sure, for everyone. What do you think? Cherries this weekend?
Got a chance.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. Oh, Alan L has a question. Rashford and United. Rashford. Yeah, Rashford. So this is the kind of building story at Old Trafford. Left out of last weekend's performance, and the team benefited hugely from that. Everybody felt midweek. We haven't seen who makes the team for Spurs. Probably you have by now, listener. But what we have seen instead are the comments that Marcus Rashford made to Henry Winter, openly talking about his desire to seek an opportunity elsewhere. Is that a fair summary of what he says?
Mean, yeah, he said that it might be that could be an option.
Okay.
Which in footballer speak is, it was quite striking to hear him say that, put it this way.
I mean, I always find that if you have a really tough day at work, the best thing to do is to call up Henry Winter and sort of complain to him about it. I mean, come on, it's stupid from Rashford.
Why?
What's he doing? Like, I know that like he's completely entitled to want to leave the club,
Yes.
and I think it'd be a great idea for him because.
But if you're a footballer and you want to leave the club, you want to let people know that you want to leave the club.
Yeah, but you can do that in different ways rather than like clearly undermining the club and the manager by going straight to a journalist. Like it's just silly. It's not going to help resolve the situation in a nice way.
Might make it happen sooner though.
Yes, but he actually talked in that interview about wanting to leave on the best possible terms.
Yeah, good luck with
So
that.
it's like, well, then why are you doing this interview? He's just so poorly advised, I think, Marcus Rashford.
Yeah.
And he keeps doing silly things, I think. And I can't wait for him to leave there because I don't think he's been looked after. I think he needs looking after. And boy, is there a player in there. I was having a conversation with my friend George about this recently, almost forgetting the fact that 2 years ago, this guy was elite. He was really, maybe in the top sort of 10, 15 players in the world. And that Rashford is still there. He's what? He's 27?
27.
So you've got 3-4 years. Like, in the words of that film, get out.
Right.
But stop this nonsense. Don't go chat.
Do you think Arsenal is the place for him?
Yeah, but I mean, they're not going to sell him to Arsenal. But I mean, yeah, maybe if we're selling players.
The problem is as well, I don't think who's going to pay what United would think he's worth. He's on a long contract. His wages. His exact words, by the way, were, for me personally, I think I'm ready for a new challenge in the next steps. Which is pretty, I mean, and also certainly as a journalist, I think it's brilliant that he's coming out and giving, I don't think it's necessarily the most helpful, but it's great for us,
But
what great quotes.
Amorim seems like a sort of reasonable guy, right?
Well,
Couldn't you go to Amorim and say the same thing to him and say, listen, I really want to leave. I have massive respect for this club, but I'd really be grateful if you could help me. And I reckon Amorim probably would. Well, maybe that's naive. I don't know.
No, I think that would have been the better thing to do.
Or maybe he has. I don't know. Can I just ask, Alan L has the question, Rashford and United, why now, not when Ten Hag seemingly wanted him out over 12 months ago? Feels like wasted time for all involved. It's not a tactical question, I think it's fair to say. Charlie,
Well, I mean, Amorim said that thing, didn't he? He was like, I look at everything. I look at what the players eat and et cetera, et cetera. And I don't think it's specifically about what he eats, but I think he was making the point that it's not just about the football.
It's a lifestyle
It's not a
question.
coincidence, though, that this has happened in the week that he was left out of the Manchester derby. No. It's not a coincidence. He's got the hump. He's angry.
Yeah.
He's fed up. And he says he wants it out there that I'm off. The issue he's got is that he's got this great talent, but he's got into so many bad habits down the years, and he's been in a culture that's really bad at Manchester United. The dressing room's been quite poor for many years.
Whole club.
Yeah, exactly. So he had no good role models really in recent seasons. If he went to an Arsenal or any of these top clubs where they have a good culture, it'd be a heck of a shock to his system. And I don't know whether he's too far down the road of being able to change and to be able to adapt. Is he too far stuck in his own world of doing what he wants when he wants? That's the issue. And does he fancy working for a manager that has a much stricter, way of dealing with players like that? So
it's a very good point, Adrian. I'm always hopeful that there's a second chance. And Benji, as you say, what a player he was. It'd be fantastic to see him.
And also, what a guy, what a role model. Like his you remember how high his star was, or how, especially during the pandemic when he was doing extraordinary things. It's a shame that the football side has dropped off a little bit, because that combination of like really impressive role model and remarkable footballer could be extraordinary.
Potent, I
Anyway.
don't know whether he's still as athletically gifted as he was. I get, that's another thing I think there'll be a potential buyer will be looking at 27 as well. Does he still have that kind of electric pace?
It's the Lingard, isn't there? You either go down the Lingard route or you resurrect your career.
Raheem Sterling is another. I know he's a bit older, but what you were saying about being in a bad sort of environment, I do feel a bit. He was at Chelsea, and then he's come and clearly Arteta's not happy with how he sort of tracked back and things like that, and it can be difficult, I guess. But managers do also back themselves, I think, to get a tune out of a player.
Very good. Well, best of luck to all concerned. Down the bottom end of the Premier League, meanwhile, you'll recall that Wolves and Saints are now looking in a world of pain, 5 and 9 points respectively from safety. The other team in the bottom three are Ipswich, who are 2 points behind Leicester, 3 from Everton and 4 from Crystal Palace. This weekend, along with Palace against Arsenal and Everton's clash with Chelsea, you've got Ipswich hosting Newcastle, Saints travelling to Fulham, and Leicester up against Wolves. The Saints and Wolves teams, of course, both be with new managers. Leicester's game with Wolves, that looks really... Well, the most significant, I guess, of the clashes down the bottom end. Leicester are only just above the bottom three and Wolves very much in it. And it looks like it's going to be Vitor Pereira's first game in charge of Wolves. What that means, I'm not sure if we can say at this point. You haven't written a piece about that, have you, Adrian?
No, not yet.
Right.
They might ask me to, but yeah, you look at the body of work and it's all right, but it's not... blow your socks off, Pereira,
It's had highs and lows.
Yeah, highs and lows, and he's quite combustible as a character.
He does seem quite fiery, but maybe that's what you need. So he's also Portuguese. That makes him the 4th Portuguese manager currently in the Premier League, which, Benji, you are outraged to see, means that there are twice as many Portuguese managers now as there are British bosses. Only 2 British bosses.
It's disgusting when Sam Allardyce is available.
Yeah. To name but one.
If it is his first match,
Yes.
no Ait Nouri suspended.
Yeah.
Surely Cunha.
Probably no Cunha, because he's going down, isn't he, with the FA charge? So I would say they're probably the 2 best players for Wolves. So not perfect situation for him.
Okay, they're taking on a Leicester team that have allowed 74 shots on goal in this Van Nistelrooy's first 3 games in charge. So could be lots of goals in this, because Wolves, even without Cunha, pose a threat. They've scored bags of goals. They've conceded, though, plenty too. In fact, this from producer Charlie, only Wayne Rooney's Plymouth have conceded more goals in English League football this season. Wow.
But they've scored as many as 6th place Bournemouth. So, it is...
Wow. Leicester have scored in every home game. They're very consistent. And Ruud van Nistelrooy seems to be a bit more attacking, doesn't he, than Cooper? So, I reckon both teams score here.
Yeah.
Bit of a shootout,
Really? But probably Wolves' problems to increase. What about Southampton and they've got their interim manager, Simon Rusk, in charge. They did Wednesday, and I imagine for the weekend as well. But the guy who's being tipped to take over long term is Danny Röhl.
Oh yeah.
Who I believe you're going to go and see this weekend for Sheffield Wednesday's current team. They're taking on Stoke in the Championship, and it could be his last match in charge. They say.
Yeah.
If he does join Southampton, what kind of football would he bring, Adrian? And is he an appointment with a view to next season? You know what I mean?
He should be, shouldn't he?
Yeah.
Because that they will be in the Championship next season. I'm pretty sure of that. No matter who comes in, I don't think they can keep Southampton up. No, they're so bad. But yeah, Danny Röhl's a good manager. They love him at Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah, I'm working on co-coms for Sheffield Wednesday Stoke for Sky, and if he's there or not there, or if it's his last game, they'll be so upset, Owls fans, because they were down. They were down at the bottom end of the Championship. They were going to get relegated, and he somehow got a tune out of the group, and they survived on the last day. And now they're in the top half, knocking on the door of the playoffs. What sort of manager is he?
Could he do a similar job at Saints? I'm thinking.
I just don't. I think the Premier League is a different, ball game with that Saints squad. What he is a very good man manager. Like he's a good connection guy. He'll get the crowd on board. He'll get a feel good factor. Pressing is the big thing. I think they're very proactive. And the other thing with Danny Röhl is that he's not married to one system, which will be music to the ears of Southampton fans. He can horses for courses.
I see.
He can sit in a low block. He can go to all out attack.
Right.
He can do a bit of everything.
He's a lovely talker as well. You'll have seen him during the
good manager
Euros.
He's young as well. He's mid-30s.
35 years of age.
Yeah.
He was ITV's German pundit in Germany.
I think he'd be a good appointment.
For the Euros.
Yeah, very good appointment.
But I don't think it'd be a good job for him to take.
I wouldn't touch it if I'm him. No,
exactly.
I actually think he can hold out for something better.
You don't think he could be managing Bayern Munich next season in a kind of Vincent Kompany style, get a team relegated, playing good football kind of way?
Don't write it off. No, I genuinely think he should stay where he is.
Okay.
And wait for a better team to manage.
I see. Okay, well, Simon Rusk in charge at the moment. Not sure if that will continue for the visit to Craven Cottage. Fulham are on the best scoring run of any team in the Premier League. They've scored in their last 15 league matches. There you go.
And so, sorry, this is actually a note that I did. I'm actually going to refer to the notes. Duncan mentioned Anthony Robertson as potentially the best left back in the league, right? I completely agree with that. I know Duncan isn't very sort of comfortable with statistics, so I've got some. I did some digging here, and this is kind of remarkable, right? Anthony Robertson. If you look at assists by defenders, he is top. If you look at interceptions by defenders, he is top. So he's doing it at both ends of the pitch.
Yeah.
Successful crosses by defenders, top. Successful take-ons by defenders, he's in the top 3. Tackles by defenders, he's in the top 3.
Right.
Amazing, right? And actually, just to sell another player to another team, there was lots of lingering shots of him after the Liverpool-Fulham game last week. So I was like, oh, come on, this is the Andy Robertson replacement, sort of ready to go. And I think sort of Liverpool Twitter / Blue Sky or whatever, Blue Sky-averse, is that a thing? Anyway,
very much.
They were all on a collective scouting mission for Anthony Robinson last weekend, and they liked what they saw.
Okay, but if you do the pie chart, you just mentioned all the peaks, all the big slices. What are the teeny shriveled slices for Anthony Robinson? What doesn't he bring?
No, I don't think there's
nothing.
A lot.
The thing with it, so I remember I watched him Spurs Fulham last season at Craven Cottage, and he was in front of my end in the press box, I think for the first half, and he was amazing. I just couldn't believe how good he was, and I texted a friend of mine who supports Fulham. I was like, is he, why, with all due respect, why is he not? Why is he here? And he basically said, he was like, if he can develop a more consistent final ball, he's out of here, and he has. I think he.
Sorry, Fulham fans, but he's gone in the summer.
The club that should buy him is clear to me. I can see the fit at Liverpool, but the absolute fit for him is Manchester United. Ruben Amorim, left wing back, up and down, balance. Can defend.
Given the choice of Liverpool and United, and it may be that Anthony Robinson can pick his club this summer. You're picking Liverpool, though, aren't you?
You pick Liverpool all day long, but Manchester United should. If Manchester United aren't in for him, I'll be staggered.
Well,
perfect.
For now, he plays for Fulham, and Southampton are the opponents this weekend. What else we got this weekend? You got West Ham against Brighton. Benji, you're going along to this. Are you?
Yep. Yeah. Well, I'll be there.
All right, that should be fun, though, because Brighton are a fun bunch, and so are West Ham. How many shots did you have on Monday?
Yeah, loads.
Or is it only Mondays that you guys turn up?
Yeah, I don't know why they keep doing this, putting us on a Monday night, because...
Well, you're not doing badly in that slot.
Yeah, no, to be fair, I mean, it's been a little bit better over the last few weeks. I'm just not having Lopetegui. I was only recently was a Lopetegui apologist. I know you're going to accuse me of flip-flopping.
No. I was just going to say that Paquetá seems to be in for Lopetegui.
There's a subplot here which is actually horrible.
The context of this is that when he scored on
Monday
against Bournemouth, he ran the kind of 50 yards to go and hug.
I think because the news by then might have already been in the squad that Lopetegui's father's just died.
Oh, fair, right.
I think that might be
sure.
the reason.
Yeah.
Which is like rough timing for him
because
he's under a lot of pressure. But with talking about the football, I was surprised that we got a point on Monday night, because Bournemouth are better than that, better than what we saw. And West Ham still, we're not really producing anything coherent. We've got good players that can get us out of jail, mostly Jared Bowen. But yeah, let's see. Brighton always beat us. If we get a result against Brighton, I will start to accept that maybe Lopetegui's turning it around. You talked about earlier that 3-0 Bournemouth win away at Man United last year. Right, so a lot of the Lopetegui apologists, of which I've been one, talk about Iraola's run last year, where it took him quite a while to really click. It didn't take him this long. Like already by like early November to sort of the end of the year, Iraola had clicked. They beat United away. I think they were unbeaten from beginning of November to New Year's Eve. No one's quite clear like what West Ham represent. We're less than some of our parts.
That good a comparison, because Iraola is such like a distinct philosophy, and it's one where it feels like it needs to be bought into, and it needs everyone to understand it in a way that I don't think Lopetegui is necessarily that kind of manager.
No, and he wasn't the first choice. Amorim was the first choice, right? And they didn't really have a backup. I mean, it was always going to be difficult to replace Moyes, because Moyes was, statistically more or less our most successful manager ever. So to some extent, Lopetegui is the Moyes,
the interim
to Moyes,
the Unai Emery.
Yeah, but yeah, let's see if we get a result this weekend. I'll start revising my opinions.
Okay, Brighton have a very specific kind of team that they struggle against. I'm not sure if West Ham fits into that profile, Adrian, if you know what I mean.
No, yeah.
No, you don't know what I mean, or no, they don't fit into that kind
I'm
of
not
profile?
sure I know what you mean.
Okay, so Brighton's run of results against teams at the bottom end
yeah.
of the table, teams that basically present in a low block. I'm thinking that leave Brighton lots of the ball and then hit them on the break, as we saw last weekend.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but
is that West Ham's game?
It was last season at the Amex, though.
I was going to say they won that game early
beat
on in
them
the
3-0
season
by
and went top.
We beat them 3-0 by doing exactly that, sitting back and hitting them on the break. You're right, Jimbo.
London Stadium, you've got to go for it. You can't play low block at London Stadium against Brighton, can you?
Well, maybe, because I don't think they've ever lost. I don't think they've lost at the London Stadium. Like, they're very good.
They've never lost at the London Stadium. It's true, Benji.
Yeah, they are our
West
sort of bogey
Ham
club. Yeah.
West Ham won just one of their last 14 meetings in the league with the Seagulls.
Yeah, and that was the aforementioned 3-0 last year.
Wow.
Let's see.
Yeah. Ipswich, Newcastle. Ipswich, the only Premier League team still yet to win at home this campaign. And Brentford, Nottingham Forest, the other two games coming up this weekend. Brentford, Nottingham Forest.
That should be great, and it's a shame that the TV picks were made when they were, because now that would be absolutely fit for TV, wouldn't it?
Well, that
Everyone
one's
would
on
want
at
to watch
3 o'clock
that
on
game.
Saturday.
That's what I mean. So that it didn't get chosen because however many weeks ago it wouldn't have looked quite so exciting, but now it's pick of the bunch.
Just thing on Forest, because I don't think they get discussed enough on this podcast. But sorry, take that back. Something that I find very impressive with Forest is that there's been a lot of talk over the last few weeks about how everyone's Chelsea have been vindicated in their kind of throw a lot of football players at a wall and see what sticks. Football strategy, transfer strategy over the last few years. Well, Forest have done basically exactly the same thing, and actually through amazingly rapid iteration, each year have built up this now very, very good side. Like, everyone was kind of laughing at them in 22, 23 when they bought 30 players. And obviously there's a lot of dross in there, but they got Gibbs White, they got Danilo, they got Nico Williams. Next season, 17 players, still a lot, but included in that crop was Elanga, Murillo, Chris Wood, Hudson-Odoi, Ola Aina. And then this year they've added Milenkovic, Moreno, Anderson. Like, I think it's about time people started looking at that transfer strategy and saying, it's worked. Well done. That was like everyone was laughing at them, and it's worked.
But beyond that, and I've made this point before in this podcast that I credited my brother with. It was his point, and actually he then ticked me off because I didn't make it quite well enough. To expand on it, what he was saying was basically what they've done. They broke the rules. Yeah. Got away with it, but were able to sort of progress. And do other clubs look at that, but bigger?
But did they get away with it? Did they take the penalty?
They took the points, but it's been well worth it, hasn't it?
Yeah, but it's worth it.
Yeah, so do other clubs look at that and be like, we'll take that. But bigger than that, his point, is it's a kind of existential question for the Premier League. Do you want teams to be able to do what Forest have done? Because Forest are one of the few teams to have come up and now are competing at the top end. They've done it by breaking the rules. But it's really quite interesting, isn't it? And
so maybe it's the rules that are wrong.
Are the rules wrong? Do we want more teams to do what Forest do? I think most would probably say yes. Yeah. But do we?
As long as they're not called Man City, in which case,
yeah. But it is quite interesting. Like, what does the Premier League want to be? Does it want to be a kind of you come up and you go back down again, like Burnley or Ipswich might do, or Southampton are certainly going to do?
No,
or do we want to encourage this?
It's a very good point because nobody wants to encourage financial irresponsibility. But we're loving this Premier League season.
And we're loving Forest. Forest are one of the most interesting teams in the league because they've gone on that journey.
And Chelsea. They
to some extent, Chelsea. I don't think maybe neutral.
It's true. I've got no love or hate for Chelsea. I'm loving them this year, and they did it also to the amortization of contracts.
Previously done.
Right.
Yeah, they've bent the rules, haven't they?
Yeah, but they did it. They've done the same thing. They've sort of, but gotten away with it before the loophole was closed about the 10-year contracts and all this kind of stuff. So I don't know. Basically, what we're saying,
Your
conclusion,
brother, is he available Mondays and
I'll get him on. Yeah.
we're basically saying we're all for breaking financial rules, and that's the way forward. Is that our conclusion?
Unless you said something.
There you go. I mean, I for one am invigorated for this weekend in a way that I hardly dreamed possible barely an hour ago. Many thanks then to Benji and Adrian and Charlie and producer Charlie and also Liam and you, listener. Sunday night, we're going to be recording our reaction to all of that in our final show before Christmas. Am I right? No, we got a Euro show after that on Monday, but our final kind of Premier League outing. Do hope you join us for that, listener. I hope everything goes well for you. In the meantime, we'll catch up with you soon. From all of us here, it's goodbye. The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around, and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.